that scare you, Bill? Well, it has been a while since I have done a Sunday school lesson, and I am really excited to be here and see all of your shining faces. I've been awake since about 2, and that's courtesy of my third shift lifestyle. So I am well awake and ready to see all of you, even if you are not. All right? 10, verse 1. I inherited Bob Coolman's set of verses, so I get instead of 1 through 8. So, starting verse 1, Acts 10. Now there was a man at Caesarea, however you say that, named Cornelius, a centurion of what was called the Italian cohort, a devout man and one who feared God with all his household, and gave many alms to people and prayed to God continually. About the 9th hour of the day, he clearly saw in a vision an angel of God who had just come in and said to him, Cornelius, fixing his gaze on him. And being much alarmed, he said, What is it, Lord? And he said to him, Your prayers and alms have ascended as a memorial before God. Now dispatch some men to Joppa and send for a man named Simon, who is called Peter. He is staying with a tanner named Simon, whose house is by the sea. And the angel who was speaking to him had left. He summoned 2 of his servants and a devout soldier of those who were his personal attendants. And after he had explained everything to him, he sent them to Joppa. On the next day, as they were on their way and approaching the city, Peter went up on the housetop about the 6th hour to pray. But he became hungry and was desiring to eat. But while they were making preparations, he fell into a trance. And he saw the sky opened up, and an object like a great sheet coming down, lowered by 4 corners to the ground. And there were in it all kinds of 4-footed animals and crawling creatures of the earth and birds of the air. A voice came to him, Get up, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, By no means, Lord, for I have never eaten and unclean. Again, a voice came to him a second time, What God has cleansed, no longer consider unholy. This happened 3 times, and immediately the object was taken up into the sky. Okay. It's not up there right now, but in the slideshow, there's a slide you guys have noticed that says like Acts, the Gospel Unleashed. Okay, you've seen that come up, but you know what I'm talking about. Acts 10 is an absolutely significant time in just history in general, because all the way up in all of Earth's history, all the way up till, let's say, Acts 2, like the church wasn't started, right? But even in Acts 2 until Acts 10, Christianity was just for the Jews in Israel. So it's like in this little spot in the world. It's not until the events of Acts 10 that the gospel actually gets to be unleashed in all the world. Okay, so Acts 10 is just starting to, Acts 10 1 through 16 is just starting to, the events happen for the gospel to become unleashed into the world. Now, as you all know, there's hundreds prophecies in the Bible, and a lot of them discussed how salvation was going to be brought to the whole world. Can any of you name some of those prophecies? You should know some of them. If you don't, you should learn some. Prophecies of the church are prophecies that indicate that salvation would be brought to the world, not just the Jews. Anyone name any? Come on. Yes. It's good. No more answers from you, Marshall. Anyone else? That's a little vague. There's, well, name a spot maybe. We'll say like um, Daniel chapter 2, or in Hosea 1:10, Joel 2:32, Isaiah chapter 2. I'm not going to go into each one individually. The reason why I'm bringing it up is that God knew from the very beginning that eventually there would be a time when salvation was going to be brought to the whole world. This, in the New Testament, he also knew the same thing. Now, in the New Testament, when Jesus was walking the earth, he just stayed with the Jews. But you think he knew about those prophecies in the Old Testament? Of course he did. He knew all about that. He knew that salvation is going to be brought to these people, but he also knew that it's going to be the church that's going to be doing that. Okay? Now, I'm just bringing that up to illustrate that everything has been leading up to what's going on here in Acts. Okay? It's monumental, it's significant. I can't stress that enough. It's huge. Now, in Acts chapter 10, God chooses Cornelius. Okay. Now, Cornelius was a Gentile, and he's probably the best Gentile that God could have chosen for this. It says in 10, verse 2, that he was a devout man and one who feared God with all his household. And they gave many alms to Jewish people and prayed to God continually. Okay, so Cornelius, while a Gentile, he was really devout to the Lord, but he's still an outsider. Okay, you think Cornelius knew ahead of time that what God was going to use him for? No, he didn't know that. He just knew that he knew the right God was, and he devoted a lot of time praying to God continually, giving alms to the Jewish people. Okay, so he's a man of upstanding character, and that's who God chooses. It's basically who God chooses in order to start the salvation for the Gentiles. Okay, so I just found it really interesting that just his character. What if you think if Cornelius didn't pray to God, and if he didn't give anything to the Jewish people, he was just a normal guy, you think God would have chosen him? No. Okay, but God chose him. Now, after God talks to Cornelius and tells him to send some of his men to Joppa to Peter, okay, then the account switches over to Peter. Now, as you remember, like in Matthew chapter, okay, can any of you tell me which chapter it is that in Matthew that Peter is told that he's going to be given the keys to the kingdom? And not you. Too fast. Matthew chapter 16. Okay, now you're aware Peter was told that he was going to have the keys to the kingdom of heaven. And he does use those in Acts chapter 2 because he's the first guy to preach the gospel in Acts 2, and that's when the church starts. But he's also going to use these keys to open salvation up to the Gentiles. Okay? And that happens here in Acts 10. Now, that's later on in the chapter, so it's past what I'm assigned. But you see that God's using the same guy to do this. Now, Peter needed a bit of a jog or a bit of a push. Okay? And that comes in a way of a very strange vision in which the sheet comes down from heaven. It's got all these sort of unclean animals. God tells Peter to rise and eat, and Peter's like, no, nothing unholy's ever eaten. I've never eaten anything unclean. And God's like, what the Lord has cleansed, don't consider unholy. He has to do that 3 times, and that's just to get Peter to start thinking. Okay, so that shows that God knows how people's minds can be. He knows that Peter is so stuck in Judaism, he's going to need a really big jog of the mind to realize that hey, something is going on here. I should probably do what God tells me. But I just found it interesting that Peter did need that, and even after that, well, I guess that goes into Acts chapter 10, like later on. So that's a bit past what my assigned verse is. But you see how Peter's mind is such that he does need a big push from the Lord in order to start doing what he needs. Now, anyone have any questions about anything so far? There's a point that I want to bring that I thought was really interesting. Have you ever noticed that the Lord uses people in order to teach the gospel or to do his work? Okay, why isn't it that God can't just send an angel down and that's what does the teaching of the gospel? So if you think about it, we're really given a really, really important ministry. If God considers us to be the ones to teach the gospel and he doesn't use an angel to come down on a stage and teach the gospel to people. You see how it's just something I was thinking about. That's really significant that God will put that responsibility on us and not on an angel. So that their sense to you guys. Okay. Okay, this is what I have. That's what I have for these 16 verses. As far for me reading this, it seems pretty straightforward as to what's going on because a lot of the details don't come until after, later on in the chapter. So that's what I have for that assignment. Now I still have some time, so you're not off the hook. Okay, I have some backup points that I wanted to bring up that are not related directly to this scripture. Okay, you go to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, verse 10. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. I bring up this verse just by way of reminder that in this world, when something bad happens, a lot of times it's easy to just assume that it's actually a bad thing. But if you think about it, it's actually kind of an illusion. See, if you're doing something good, something that would be pleasing to the Lord, but then something like someone doesn't like that or they persecute you for that, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of an illusion to be a bad thing because someone's being mean to you, but it's not actually wrong because the Lord is happy with it. And he says, blessed are you. Okay, so I find that interesting that, yeah, the first reaction is to think, oh man, something bad happened to me. The Lord's punishing me, something, but that's not the case at all. It's actually a good thing. So that's kind of a reminder that I wanted to give to you all. Okay, any comments or anything on that? Okay, next.
I was kind of thinking about that this week. Matter of fact, that, sometimes we kind of judge our condition based on how things are going. But, I think God really kind of looks at our condition not based on how things are going, or even sometimes, it's what we believe about how things go. If I believe that this is, I'm being punished, I've done something wrong, but if I believe that God is using this to shape my character, blessed are you when you're being persecuted, you know? And so you don't set out to be persecuted. I mean, I know some people, you know, kind of fall into that